Tonight, on a very special episode of the GenXperts Podcast, the GenXperts discuss the war on drugs.
Guys, welcome back to the GenXperts Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Phelps, and I'm here today with a part of the GenXperts. We have a few missing today, but I do have Dr. Derek Clements, Miss Courtney Clements, and Dr. Amanda Salazar-Higgins, and our subject today is it's a tough one. It is the war on drugs.
This is a very special episode of the GenXperts Podcast.
Tonight, on a very special episode of the GenXperts Podcast.
So let's just start with that.
We're going to talk about drugs.
I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid.
There were a few of those, actually.
Oh, yeah.
special
So,
episodes.
Courtney, talk about them.
Oh, yes, I've been looking into those.
So throw it on us there, dear.
Well, I mean, are we going to start with the very special episodes, or are we going to start? Maybe we should start with a little history of.
I'm not prepared for history.
I am.
Go on. Drugs.
Drugs.
Let's talk
Go
about
bad.
Early man, once they found the hallucinogenic mushrooms, started having trouble since then. Okay, go ahead.
That's pretty true. But really, coming into the 80s part of Gen X, when many of us were teenagers or young teenagers, as the case may be. And, you're coming out of the 60s and 70s when it's drug-o-rama.
Peace, love,
and pot, and anything else they could get their hands on. And you hit about the early 1980s, and we've talked about this with Satanic Panic and the conservatives, you hit the Nancy Reagan and the Just Say No campaign, which started in the early 80s, and it just kind of went from there. And of course, the Just Say No campaign was geared specifically for school-age kids, under the assumption that your friends, they're not really your friends if they do this, but your friends will be pressuring you to take drugs. And instead of giving them excuses, what do?
Just say
no.
Just say no. That's right.
Solve the problem.
That will solve the problem.
It really worked with sex ed too.
Was anyone in here ever asked by your friends to do drugs?
No.
No, I wasn't either. Now, there was a kid at my school who got busted for selling grass clippings in a baggie and representing them to be marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't even go the extra mile to put oregano in there.
I know.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, just mowed grass clippings. And
It's called capitalism.
yeah. And I mean, of course, there were drugs at Valley View. There's drugs at every high school.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, then here's the other question. Did we ever see any
no.
at high school? No, I didn't.
I did not. I think also because people were afraid of my father.
Okay.
They sell
Paragould,
Paragould.
Well, the big town of Paragould.
And where I grew up, it was liquor. That'd be the
Yeah. Alcohol. Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously alcohol is big, but yeah, I mean pot. Well, I've seen my sister smoke pot when I was in. My sister graduated in '87. Okay, I didn't see her smoke pot. I know she was high when she came in because the behavior. And I watched that special episode of Different Strokes. But I mean, it's been out there. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say, "Oh, I never did drugs." Yeah, I smoked pot in high school. I had friends that were potheads, but I didn't rob anybody's house, and all the pitfalls. It was also one of those things I did and grew out of because you mature and you're like, "Well, this isn't really doing a whole lot for me." I don't think anyone was going, "Hey, man."
Yeah.
The dude with the trench coat going.
Yeah. You want to buy a golden
drugs?
hand?
You want to do some weed? It wasn't anything like
Smoked
that.
marijuana.
It was a bunch of stupid kids doing stupid crap, and honestly, the legality of it would have probably been just as bad if we were drinking alcohol or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it was there, but I don't think it was as frightening a thing as they were trying to make it out to be.
Well, again, I'm gonna connect this back to Satanic Panic. They're coming for your children.
Yeah, they're coming. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing too. I always sit and wonder about is Nancy and Ron's big war on drugs. They came from Hollywood, and you were there during the era, at least known enough about like Fatty Arbuckle, what about, if y'all were concerned about those, why were you not concerned about the Hollywood sex parties that were going on and, all this other stuff that was happening in Hollywood that they probably were knowledgeable about? But do you not want to talk about it? Or is that, but we also discover all that stuff later.
Yeah.
I mean, not that the Reagans were involved, but this was all going on. But they come from that culture. They come from that industry. It's fair to assume they knew that kind of stuff was going on, but this was the fight they chose to fight.
Well, and it kind of goes right along with we know that the demonization of marijuana started back in the 30s and 40s.
Yes.
And because reefer madness because of the association with Black people, with African Americans, and with jazz musicians. And that's when you start, getting all of these massive penalties for being caught with marijuana, like life in prison for being caught with pot. Mm-hmm. It's just insane. And I'm not saying that drugs... Derek, what are you doing?
I'm just looking through some papers. To remind myself something.
Okay. Some drugs can be very problematic. And, as we came through our generation, you start getting the cocaine, and then you start getting the crack, and then the crystal meth, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. The war on drugs was lost a long time ago.
If you look at just the general history of it, you used to be able to buy opium, laudanum, heroin at pharmacies, and so they took care of that. Then the newer ones took their place, and so there is fighting a new set of things. Mm-hmm. And just like today, there's a new set of things out there that they're going after. But oddly enough, what I was looking for is the first time we hear the word war on drugs being used was in the Nixon administration.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, and the funny thing is I was trying to find dates in this little article I found. So we got Nixon going after them. And there's not a lot that happened when Carter was in office. Not saying that Jimmy was for it. Jimmy was very against it, the Christian man that he was. So I'm assuming they just carried on with the legislation and so on that was in there. And then, bam, there it is again with Reagan.
Yeah. So
it definitely is the conservative reaction to what's happening, like you said, with Vietnam and marijuana.
Yeah.
And of course, what I always, in my mind, I'm hearing the soundtrack, Copperhead Road playing, which is oftentimes called, or the jokingly called the Redneck National Anthem. If you listen to it, it's about the guy's grandpa was, our dad was a shine runner. And then after he goes to Vietnam, he picks up some tricks and brings back some seed, and then he becomes a grass runner. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I found it.
Yeah. And as I recall, Nancy Reagan was even on a few of those. And I would like to get to very special episodes later. But I seem to remember that she was on maybe the Different Strokes very special episode. I don't know. But I know Nancy Reagan turned up on at least one of these television sitcoms.
I can't remember if there's a Different Strokes. Now, I do remember, wasn't there an episode of Family Ties where Alex was taking uppers?
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
She has a list.
I have a list. And along with this, you get the Red Ribbon Week. Because, and of course, we know from World War II, we have the tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. We have that. But I feel like our generation was the one that started coming into the colored ribbons for everything. Mm-hmm. And it's just subdivided and subdivided and subdivided. Yes, the light teal ribbon is for this, and the dark teal ribbon is for this. And so the red ribbon was the anti-drug and DARE. Both of those started in the early 1980s. And for them of you listening who don't know what DARE is, it means Drug Abuse Resistance Education. And of course, it was all aimed at kids in school, and let's educate them about how bad drugs are. Mm-hmm. And so they don't turn into drug-addicted adults.
Red Ribbon also at Paragould schools during track and field day in elementary was second place.
Yes. Yes.
So you'd mentioned that because that starts in 85 because of the death of the DEA agent. And this, oddly enough, if you watch Narcos Mexico, the DEA agent who is tortured and killed in that show is the guy that Red Ribbon Week is based off of. Hmm. Yeah, I made a connection this morning. I told Courtney, and she, I don't think, really realized how struck I was. But I reckon that name's familiar. Why is that name familiar? Because I watched all the Narcos. That's just me. But But it's kind of wild. And let's see, it really took off. And the first national one was in '88. So I think we were toward the end.
Yeah, we didn't really get in on the red ribbon stuff much.
I don't remember red ribbon, but in elementary school, they would come and they talk to us about drugs. And they bring us like stickers and stuff like that say, give hugs, not drugs, and that sort of thing.
I remember hearing that.
Mm-hmm. What about the assembly that you go to and they started playing Van Halen's Right Now?
Is that
making good choices about
that? And were they saying like turn around?
Yeah.
It was like Pride or something. I can't remember what it stood for, but they'd come and do like these assemblies and
they
stuff.
Had one. I remember. Gosh, I guess because it sticks out because they had an Arkansas State Trooper come talk to us.
Ooh.
But he was, I think, talking to us more about drunk driving.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, said something to us, and I was like, it's really off-putting because it's like, yeah, just, you plan on going out partying with your friends and drinking and driving. When you leave the home that evening, just look around your bedroom and your family because it may be the last time you ever see them. Like,
scared straight.
Okay, thanks. It's
Plans for tonight have changed.
Yeah, but it's like it's a Wednesday. I'm glad you terrified us before the weekend. But yeah, it was out there. Let's be blunt about it. It's still out there. I mean, the kids are still going and partying. They're still doing whatever. I think, I don't know about, harder drugs beyond marijuana, but marijuana, I think, was really the drug choice of defiance for definitely our generation. Like, I'll show my parents, I'll smoke weed. Now it's open. Not knowing that your parents probably smoked it in the 60s.
Yeah.
Go ahead, young one.
Well, I can pretty much say mine didn't.
Oh, mine definitely didn't.
Mine was busy being drafted. So
that was in service. So yeah.
And I believe I can speak for your wife's parents as well.
Oh no, they did not.
There is no way Papa Joe and Miss Maxine.
Alcohol.
No.
And what was your dad a state trooper? I don't remember what years.
Dad was a state trooper in the 60s.
Okay, so definitely no there.
Well, my father definitely did because he was a Marine Corps veteran. So what do you do when you're in country? I mean, of course, and then when
Marines have a reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. But when he did, when we were growing up, my father just instilled a huge fear into us. He's like, you don't have to worry about drugs killing you because if I find out you're doing drugs, I will kill you first. Sir, yes, sir.
That was an Army officer. Yes, I get that.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy.
So we're like, sir, yes, sir.
Matter of fact, I didn't touch a drop of alcohol until I turned 21. A lot of people think I'm trying to lie about that, but no, I did not because it was made clear what the repercussions at home would be.
Alcohol was fine in our household, but anything harder than that was a definite no. And I just never had any desire to do any such thing. And
no, me either. It's not like I sat there and fretted about not being able to go out and sneak a beer or anything. I just never did. And who the rules were.
Oh, at my 25-year class reunion, we were all out before, not tailgating or anything, but it was before the football game. And I bummed like a blueberry flavored wine cooler off of somebody. And there were at least a couple people looking at me going, "You're drinking alcohol?" Yes. I'm in my 40s. You good?
We didn't know. We learned it from watching you.
Of course, one of these seminal, we didn't really bring that up in
the PSAs.
The PSAs. I learned it from watching you, Dad.
Yeah, this is your brain on drugs.
Well, that's a great place to talk about them. So describe that one then.
Oh, was it they had the frying pan with a little bit of butter thrown in there?
They're French, obviously.
Yeah.
Butter.
And with the egg, this is your brain. Crack. Psh. Egg fried. This is your brain on drug. Any questions? Yes, several.
Which drugs specifically?
Yeah. First, which one would do that? Because I'll avoid that one. Second, are you going to eat that? Because it's
it looks delicious.
That's a good looking fried egg there, man.
And you're frying eggs, and my mom's working, so I don't have any breakfast. But yeah, that one, and of course the dad. Where did you get this pot? Where did you learn to smoke pot? Because I learned it from watching you. And the dad's got that look of, oh my God, I've ruined my son because of my drug use.
I'm so ashamed.
I'm so ashamed.
I mean,
or will you just fire up the blunt with him? I mean, so there's questions.
You look at it now and laugh, but when you're a kid and watch this, it's terrifying. They are trying to scare you from it. And of course, they're probably taking a side swipe at your parents going, all right, you freaking dirty hippies. Yeah. We know what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But
you hypocrite.
Yeah, you daggum hypocrite. You're going to tell your kid you can't, but we know what you were doing at Woodstock.
Well, I mean, say though, there's a huge difference between smoking some weed and then doing heroin.
Yeah,
there's like a huge jump there.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Well, of course, our own CIA experimented with LSD. LSD was illegal when it's outside.
Yeah.
So to interrogation techniques and stuff along those lines.
Timothy Leary, all that.
Yeah, Timothy Leary. So yes.
Yeah.
So you do end up with it's kind of like them using it as the experiment. Then when people use it, where did you learn that?
Well, didn't they?
Watching you is the real life
example. Did they prove that Unabomber was a MK Ultra?
I have not heard that theory.
I've heard somewhere where I think he may have been experimented with in college.
We watched a special on him not too long back.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously had some issues.
Yeah.
I can't remember where they came from. I'd have to go back and look at him again.
Well, and you look at
threw a curveball at me on that one.
You look at the war on drugs, especially, and I think of a lot of the PSAs geared towards children more over marijuana.
Gateway drug is what they kept saying.
Gateway drug, yeah. But here's another thing they didn't talk about was the rampant steroid use in professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're telling us it's bad, but you're not looking at professional athletes who children idolize and tell them, what they're doing is wrong too. Because Vince McMahon went through that whole steroid allegation thing with Hulk Hogan. Most human beings don't naturally get that huge.
No.
That is huge. And, obviously, they come along later and admit, yes, I was using steroids. I don't do it anymore. Yeah, we could tell by your mass shrinking. But the home run races in Major League Baseball and how freakishly huge some of these baseball players looked like they were professional wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
McGuire looked like a professional wrestler because he was so jacked. But they didn't regulate that because, it was making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I look at the war on drugs and go, okay, well, I understand, this is a potential threat. But is it a potential threat because we don't want it to hurt and harm our children, or is it because you're not profiting from it?
I'm going to go with profiting. Because today, with medical marijuana, it's a very lucrative business.
Yeah.
But now, of course, for a lot of just run-of-the-mill regular parents, it was about we don't want our children harmed.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that's the same route, satanic panic.
Yep.
Scare the parents. Hey, they're going to come. They're coming for your kids. There's going to be a guy in the parking lot going, hey, little boy, would you like some weed?
And this goes back to the Halloween episode, where the fear of the marijuana people are going to be giving your children edibles.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding?
Which house?
That's
the house with the line out front.
Well, and then
the first taste is free.
Well, and then you see, like in film, you see the representation of junkies and stuff. And your parents are going, well, I don't want my kid to turn out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that's horrible.
Even if it's an old black and white clip from Reefer Madness, I mean, that's just. If you've never watched Reefer Madness.
Yes, listeners, go to YouTube, find Reefer Madness. You will laugh your head off.
Good.
And it
actually shows a reaction to some very hard drugs that probably had on people.
So
instead of weed.
We go from that to with Gen X, and then you get to the 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, and you get movies like Friday coming out.
Yeah.
Where, and even in music, it's so popularized and it was mainly marijuana usage. It really didn't go beyond that, but you see it so popularized in culture. So was the war won? Or did they just give up? Or really, was it a war at all?
I mean, the war, as someone who's actually in the trenches,
oh, yeah.
The war is very much still going on. We have not won. We've lost. We've lost this war. But I don't know. if we can ever come back from the damage that's been done.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time and a huge investment in healthcare. That's a whole nother political statement for us to turn that back around. But sadly, no, we're not winning that war. We're not winning it at all.
Well, and
how many people are still in jail for petty crimes with like something like marijuana versus harsher?
Well, was it Clinton that introduced some of that legislation that got a lot of people locked up over various drug charges?
Yeah, 3 strikes you're out.
Three strikes, yeah.
And that's life.
Yeah, and just it is wild to see.
And of course, Bill may be pandering to what the Republicans wanted in that particular case, in order to get something else, because he was really good at compromising
Bridging
with and so there are several pieces of legislation that he he eventually gives up on and allows for the Defense of Marriage Act and so on, because he had to play off something else.
Well, and he didn't inhale.
No, of course not. He didn't touch that girl either.
Yeah, none of that. Politicians.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Oh,
Arkansas's finest right there. Right?
Yeah, my gosh, we know how to do it. Yeah, I know we're going to venture those special episodes. I love those.
Yes.
And hated them at the same time.
Oh, yes. The
But you
very
knew.
special episodes.
And they were advertised. Was it someone said, you knew if one of the characters on that show came out as themselves before and spoke to the audience,
Mhm.
you knew it was about to be real tonight.
Mhm. I actually watched a YouTube video about the basically 10 episodes, 10 very special episodes that traumatized Gen X. And basically kind of what it said was just about everything had a very special episode about drugs. That's not all they showed. I mean, there was the one of Punky Brewster where the kid got trapped in the refrigerator.
The fridging.
But
Alex Keaton's survivor's guilt over his friend.
yes, that was one. There was a growing pains. Kirk Cameron before he became insufferable, but he was well on the track to it at then. Teen heartthrob Kirk Cameron. And the episode was called Thank God It's Friday. And apparently he and the buddies got invited to a college party.
That's the one where everyone stopped at the party and
Yes.
Kirk Cameron came out and sat and started talking. I was like,
Yes.
what is this
Yes,
about?
that was at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And it was cocaine in that one. It wasn't pot. It was everybody in the bathroom doing coke.
We didn't go to the bathroom. I remember that.
Yeah, we didn't go to the bathroom. And yes, then he did come out and he's like, I'm not getting paid to say this, and I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life and blah, 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 blah. But the first one that came to my mind was from Saved by the Bell. And Jesse Spano and the episode where, because Jesse, if you have not watched the original Saved by the Bell, she was the like valedictorian overachiever character. And at some point, someone started giving her uppers so that she would have more time to, basically more energy to get all of this stuff done perfectly. And at the time the episode was, it was a little bit shocking. Now you look back at it and go,
well, I think originally it was supposed to be like amphetamines, but it was too harsh for that time. So they changed it to caffeine.
Caffeine. Okay. Well,
yeah.
We know what but the big scene where Jessie has her moment is she's supposed to be in some kind of talent show, and Zach Morris is in the room with her. She's singing the song, I'm so excited, but she's singing it like frantically. She's like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. Yeah.
It was great.
Thank you so much. Yeah. That was, they were coming at us kids with, silver spoons, different strokes. And yes, I checked Nancy Reagan did appear on Different Strokes for that one. Growing Pains, Saved by the Bell, anything you can think of, any of those, they had an episode about drugs.
Any television show that had a very marketable child actor,
yes,
had one.
Yes, exactly.
That's the audience they were reaching out to get.
Yep.
Well, and Hollywood's a target in the drug wars.
Yeah.
So the best way to defend yourself is to do that.
Yeah, because
make it sound like you're doing that. And I'm saying that because you got movies and other things to deal with it, not these shows.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't see on a very special episode of the A-Team. You didn't see that.
V.A. Baracus gets into heroin.
Which Nancy Reagan did set on Mr. T's lap.
Woohoo! Just say no.
Just say no, man. Yeah.
But yeah, any series that had marketable child actors that were popular, there's high chance there was going to be a special episode talking about something.
And of course, the after school specials.
Yeah, the after school specials.
I know there was one with Scott Baio. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. One like he's drunk all the time.
I'm looking it up. But yes, and the after school specials, I mean, they did hit topics. I mean, there was the one about the girl who was molested by her dad. Mm-hmm. And then there was the day my kid turned punk or whatever. Stoned. It's called Stoned.
Yeah, Stoned. There you go.
Yeah.
God forbid somebody listens to punk music and starts.
He smokes cannabis. It's flat out. He's smoking the wacky weed.
Not the cannabis.
Anything but that.
The reefer.
Well, the thing about like marijuana from the 80s and 90s, the current strains are more potent now.
Yeah.
So I think there's
dabble, do you?
I think more than and it is more socially acceptable, I would say, in general public, because before, you would, if somebody walked into a business and they smelled of weed, you would just be like, what the hell? But now it's just like, it's commonplace. I mean, I cannot walk into work without smelling it.
The way they're processed too. It's, looking at pre-medical marijuana, I mean, they were processing some of that stuff in formaldehyde and lacing it with PCP. I mean, I'll say with medical marijuana, you might probably got a more potent strain, but
it's cleaner, for sure. You know where it's coming from.
It's been regulated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some wild, crazy stuff going on back in the day.
I just keep waiting for the Randolph County pot farm to open up so I can get me a nighttime guard job or something. Not that I want this stuff, but
on a very special
just so I can shoot at people trying to
GenXperts Podcast.
Well, then let's talk about alcohol. I mean, that's a whole separate subject.
Didn't touch it till I was 21.
I was barely in my 20s.
Pretty sure there were after-school specials on alcohol.
Oh, absolutely.
Like drunk driving and
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and of course that started back in 1980. And it, honestly, I 2 thumbs up for that organization, because drunk driving has really killed a lot of people, really maimed a lot of people, destroyed lives.
Yeah, and destroyed lives of people who weren't even the ones drinking.
Absolutely.
Oh, I had a student in a passenger seat of a car who got hit head on by a drunk driver and wasn't wearing her seatbelt. And
typically,
go ahead.
I was going to say, typically the drunk driver themselves are less likely to suffer from an injury because they are,
they're impaired.
Loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
They're not going to stiffen up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction, everything.
And it actually did result in the 1984 federal law to raise the drinking age to 21.
Yes. 21, yeah.
So, MAD had, a real big impact on alcohol consumption, period.
And of course, the big difference is alcohol is legal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Yes. Well, and
for a certain age.
The military question, you can go in the military at 18, but you can't buy beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can sign contracts, be put on death row.
Get married, have a kid.
Well,
have a kid, not be married.
How many, especially in the 80s, you might get a little bit in the 90s, how many movies did you see that had teenagers drinking and partying?
Lots.
Oh, so many.
So
it was glorified.
So common.
It was like a rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. One I did not partake in.
No. I mean, it was like 16 candles. You see.
Oh, yeah.
Huge parties.
Oh, yeah.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Huge parties.
On one hand, you do have Mads out there fighting this fight, and it's a righteous, correct fight to have.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a big industry, like the film industry, going, hey, party, guys. Throw down.
Well, alcohol was it's so demonized in this country, and especially for high schoolers that, you can't have this, you can't have this. We know it's very different in Europe, where it's commonplace at every table. But you know how rebellious teenagers are. Mm-hmm. They say, I can't have it, so I got to have it.
Let's go back to Copperhead Road. It starts with alcohol. And that rebelliousness of I'm going to go get it. And since it's legal, I'm assuming most people are assuming there's only going to be minor consequences versus if they got caught at a pot party in high school or something.
Well, you take a demographic who on a normal day, it's difficult for them to make wise decisions. And now impair that and go, okay, operate a 3,000-pound motor vehicle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because adults would have problems with that.
Well, yeah. And you look at it like, well, I saw it in a movie. They party like, right or wrong. Where am I to judge on that?
Yeah, that's, between movies and TV shows, that is what the ideal teenager life is supposed to be, is somebody's mom and dad or mom and stepdad or whatever have a big house and they're out of town.
And they leave them alone.
And so there's...
Which is probably not legal.
Yeah, but probably not. There's the huge drunken bash that, ends up with cars parked on the lawn and people like laying under rugs and throwing up in the swimming pool. And
well, as someone who's done that,
big
first-hand account. So
my dad drove semi-truck, especially when he worked for Walmart. Now, my mom could ride with him. So, they go out of town. High school, going to announce we're going to have a little bash. Now, realize I have to figure this out because my dad's sister, my aunt, uncle lived next door. Told everybody, okay, look, the narcs live next door. I love my aunt. Obviously, by the way. I'm not trying to say anything. It's teenage brain. So what I need you guys to do is to park 2 blocks away and come in the back. Have a party. There was alcohol involved. Thought, cleaned up, and probably the dead giveaway for my dad was the house was cleaner than when they left it. I thought at least. So my dad takes me out. He goes, so how big a party did you have? How did they know? Luckily, no one was harmed. No one got hurt. They were drivers. We were
young and stupid.
Responsible as stupid teenagers could be. So my dad takes me out in the driveway where he left his truck parked for the weekend. On the back tire of his truck are 2 beer cans.
That close.
I know. Almost there, but not quite, buddy. So the next time I knew. Yeah, I know I'm going to probably get grilled on this if ever a student listens to this podcast. But, we're all young. We're all stupid. We all do stupid stuff. But, hey, I was like, throw a bash because, shoot, I've seen it in how many movies. I loved Weird Science. They had a huge bash in Wyatt's family home. And the only difference is that I didn't have a Chet in my life because, I had my sister, but my sister already moved out. She probably would beat the hell out of me. But you see it and you're like, gosh, that's going to be so awesome because you're going to be popular. It's none of that. A bunch of people show up and wreck your family's house and leave. And you're there going, oh crap. We got to clean, get everything like it was before. And your teenage mind overcompensates. And I'm sure my mother walked in and go, wow, he really cleaned. I won't have to clean for a month. It smells like bleach in the house. The counters are wiped down.
God bless your mother.
Like this on a normal day. I think the laundry's done.
When your dad even sees the beer cans, he's like,
Dad, this? I guarantee, pulled in the driveway, turned, saw the beer cans, went, but just waited till the perfect point, like, what'd you do?
Yourself,
what'd you do while we were gone? Oh, no, just play some video games, talked on the phone to some friends. My daddy's like, all right, I've officially given you enough rope that you can hang yourself. Let's go.
I feel in my heart you would do the same to your own son.
Oh, most definitely. Luckily, I will say, Dad was fair. He didn't lose his crap. He didn't curse, lose his mind over it. He's like, I know you're young. I know this is, something young people do. I was young once. Don't do something stupid. All I ask. And the first thing Dad says, don't lie to me. If you did something stupid, let me know now. And that's was one of those growing up things that you get right there.
God only knows how much alcohol my brother consumed when he was in high school.
Yeah, it's not like it's something that's just only inherent to this region. It's
No.
But like I said, go back, look at movies. We growing up, it was glorified,
Yeah.
and no one got hurt except
No.
Long Duck Dong. He had a hell of a hangover.
He did have it, but yeah, there were never any fatal accidents. There were never any. Well, I would say there were never any date rapes, but then you again going back to 16 Candles, you've got the scene very, very questionable, and again
Long Duck Dong
glorified.
didn't even know where the automobile was.
Automobile. Yeah.
My parents were a little bit different. They knew we were going to do, stupid stuff, drinking, mainly. And then they made sure we did it at home. So the parties that we'd had were hosted at our house. But my parents were there, but they took everybody's keys who drove and made sure they did not leave because they knew we were going to do some stuff. And nobody got hurt. And nobody really drank as much as you think.
Mm-hmm.
You drink a little bit and then you just act stupid and then you fall asleep.
Blame it on I'll drink so much.
Oh yeah, exactly. Kids they're stupid. They just kind of show off.
You just had 1 dram of beer.
Yeah.
Oh, we had
3 whole ounces.
We actually, before at a party had O'Doul's. And we're letting people drink it and see who would act like they were drunk and just had a little giggle like, look at this guy.
The placebo effect.
Yeah. I'm so wasted. Oh, really? On what?
0.1% alcohol in there.
Oh, I had some.
Of them.
Okay, you remember when the mall had? It wasn't the Swiss Colony. It was something else though, where you could.
So there was a Swiss Colony.
Swiss Colony.
Well, it wasn't like our mall. It was probably Memphis or Little Rock,
Like
one of the two.
Hickory Farms, or
something like that.
Yeah.
And you could buy those alcohol flavored candies.
Yes, I bought some of those on a band trip. Yes.
Yeah, and I had a couple of friends who just ate several of those and thought they were just wasted beyond belief. Bless their hearts.
Yeah. I will. Obviously, this is the war on drugs mad thing we're here laughing about. The lady who lived across the street from us was growing up, Miss Jenny. She'd make rum balls at Christmas, and she consumed way more rum than ever went in those rum balls. But very, very fun night when she made them because she was just funny. She loosened up. She was hilarious. Love that woman. Miss her.
Like Justin Wilson, a little wine for
wine
to cook.
But but back to the war on drugs and mad. Obviously, these things are in place for a reason.
I mean, you can't just do nothing.
So what we're hearing in your examples is keep it at the house, keep it safe.
Yeah. Well, obviously, with alcohol, be a rational decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone should know if you're impaired, you don't need to drive a heavy piece of machinery that can not only kill or injure you, but anyone in the path of it. Mm-hmm. That should be a no-brainer. But when you're impaired, God, you think everything in the world.
Oh, there's always those people who say, "Oh, I drive better when I'm a little bit buzzed."
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Bull.
Yeah.
Sir, or a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure the police officer who pulled you over with
that
the
is
camera
not true.
footage shows you are wrong.
That would be a no. No, it's like I say, there is that balance of, we were told no, but then this other side was telling us, no, it's okay to do it. Well, Nancy Reagan's telling me I shouldn't. You're saying in this movie it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Did any of y'all ever have school plays? Like, not assemblies?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. We had a whole, I think it was anti-drug. I do not believe it was alcohol because I seem to recall the main character having a heart attack on stage, having some kind of episode on stage after having done something at a party. Yes. And, of course, then the curtains close and then he climbs in the coffin. Mm-hmm. And yes, we actually did borrow a real coffin from the local funeral home. Oh, yeah. And we later find out, sometimes when they cremate people, but they also have a viewing beforehand, they would, it was one of those, found that out after the fact.
The show coffin.
The show coffin.
It had been used.
It was a used coffin, yes. And, of course, the curtain opens up and there's the coffin with him in it. And, oh, yeah, just the the whole big scare tactic. I was a party goer. I was one of those, butt kissers in high school. I was all about that stuff. And also around here, and you guys, you two should be old enough to remember it. They used to have that conference every year, the Tone Conference, Teens of Northeast Arkansas. Do you remember that?
When was it started?
Late 80s, because I attended one of the first ones, and then the second one, I was actually one of the, I don't know what they called us, group leaders, whatever.
And in the paper.
Oh, yeah. And it went on for almost 20 years. I think.
Tonette.
I was not a Tonette. I'm Doonies. Sorry. It went on for, I think, almost 20 years, but the last time I can find a mention of it's like 2006.
Yeah.
But that was all, again, part of that idea of you have these kids who are good kids and they're learning to make good decisions, and then they'll go back to their schools and they'll help their peers to make good decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, some of us actually made a whole new club out at Valley View.
And they didn't realize exactly how public schools work.
No, but I mean, you got to try.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's always that. You got to put forth the effort because you don't know what it'll do.
Yeah.
But
I think it rings a bell, but I'm thinking it was when I was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember it because it was in the late 80s.
You would have been just coming out of high school at that point.
Well, I graduated in
89.
Yeah. So my first year at ASU would have been 89, 90.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not, but it must have been during teaching that I remember that. Because it sounds like something we try to send people to.
yeah.
The PHS, Pocahontas High School.
Yeah.
I was not involved in that, but other people were. I did find a neat stat on MAD, but this is a 1994 statistic. It said, according to the one study, that MAD ranked as the, quote, most popular charity nonprofit in America. Over 100 charities researched. 51% of Americans over the age of 12 chose love and like MAD a lot out of the options. So that's pretty good for something that just started, if that's 94, a decade before.
Yeah.
For the most part. So it is a pretty good job of getting their voice out. So that's a name recognition result, I think.
With MAD, you had a lot more invested there because the people that founding it had lost people.
Right.
I don't know how directly affected Nancy Reagan was by drug use. I mean, she may have been, but I mean, these are mothers who had lost their child.
Yeah.
And that is something.
She was 13, killed in May 1980 in California.
And she clearly was not the one driving the car.
No. He was a 46-year-old driver who had been arrested before on a DUI.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something you just...
That's something to get mad at, really. I mean
that's really... That's real anger.
Yeah.
Because that child...
13, she had everything left to go.
Yeah.
In life, so.
You don't know what she may have accomplished in her life.
Unlike the bad sponsors who are bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
Bad makes sense. Bad does not.
Yeah. I mean, we learned in the old pharmacy school world that the DARE programs actually had like an opposite effect on the war on drugs, where kids were like, it actually made them more interested in doing drugs than keeping them from doing drugs.
It's the same old, tell me I can't do it, then I just want to do it.
Yeah.
What am I missing out on?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that make it sound cool.
Yeah.
Newsflash: most of it's not.
most of it's not pretty.
No,
waking up in your own vomit.
As someone who's seen many an addict,
no, there's nothing.
There's nothing glamorous about it. There's nothing glamorous about
drug
it.
addiction, not about alcoholism. There's nothing glamorous or pretty about it.
Mm-mm.
No, but this goes back to everything you've been saying about the movies and TV shows.
Yeah, they make it seem, but that's the job they're in.
Yeah,
they're not. Well, I mean, you do have movies that really tell an accurate story.
Like Train Spotting.
Yeah, they get Oscars.
Yeah,
this is just wanting to generate some revenue.
Yeah,
pay some bills and line some pockets. And what at that point in time, what better demographic to pander to than this new teen audience we have that has almost unlimited income seemingly because of their parents.
They have their own cars to drive places. They have their own money to spend.
They're largely unsupervised.
Yeah.
And they are a huge consumer economy driver.
Yep.
As I think I've said before, childhood's a fairly new thing in the history of humanity. And so when, post 1950s, money shows up in their pockets, and what do? They spend it on records and tape cassettes and all sorts of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are today. Going to the mall.
Glorious.
For later.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Well, all right. I think that's probably about all we can cover. I mean, we're almost at 50 minutes discussing
Short one.
the Great War on Drugs and how it was valiantly fought, especially through
And lost.
Yes.
through special episodes that really spoke to our hearts. Well, I mean, really,
They really did.
they tried the best.
And we all,
they really.
yeah.
They were sincere.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't come from a place of
And we had
money off this. It was trying to actually do
the red ribbon, the MAD, the war on drugs, all these things going on at the same time as the satanic panic and fear about music telling you to do that stuff. So it's all part of a great.
We could sit and crack a few jokes in there, but all of these movements really came from a place of wanting the best for children. I mean,
We just didn't know how to do it.
They just didn't know how to go about it. And that's still happening now.
Hindsight is 2020.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to sign off here. This is the Gen Experts Podcast. Follow us. Comment on this episode. Tell us if there's something you liked, didn't like, you want to hear more about, because we do read those comments and we do think about our future episodes for our listeners. This is your host, Derek Phelps. We're signing off. Have a good night.